I called up Simon and I said, I want to make a Batman movie. And he goes, okay. And I said, I want there to be the Joker in it and Alien, and he's going to fight the Predator. That's going to be the big finale of this movie, is Batman is going to fight the Predator, just like in the comic book.
When I first got involved with Sandy and Simon on this project, I knew nothing about comic book characters or that whole fantasy world. And as I got to know more and more of the players, I realized the only way we were going to pull this off is with people who are genuinely comic book fans.
It's great.
When Sandy first came to me with this project, and basically he told me that he wanted a Batman, Predator, Alien, at night, in the rain, I'm like, yeah, this is not going to happen.
I wanted to make a film that was very true to the comic book. I'm a huge Batman fan. I love the comic books, and I thought it would be a really interesting challenge to bring a very realistic Batman to the screen. To do something that was very human and very real.
When I first walked in to the audition and I saw Sandy bounding down the steps to run out to greet me, I looked at him and I said, I think I really like this guy. I could tell right from the beginning. And he and I hit it off like that from that point on.
Clark was fantastic. He really got the character. He was so natural. In the opening sequence when he pulls on his gloves and he goes like this and you hear the leather creak, he actually did that. I showed him tons of comic books. I wanted a Batman that could actually move, be able to move his head and move like a cat, you know, move like he could pounce.
When I saw the ad for the audition, it said casting hero and villain, and the villain was like insane villain character. I could do that. And then I got the script emailed to me, and I was like, Batman, Joker, Alien, Predator, what the hell is this? I thought they sent me the wrong script.
Sandy called me up and asked me to come over to the shop, and I put on the suit before it was painted and finished. He kind of gave me two different kinds of direction. He would verbally tell me what he wanted. He would also reinforce that by physically showing me. He would get up and say, Kurt, this is what I want. The Predator does this.
Again, just as you're standing up, spread them. There you go.
When we rehearsed, Sandy was very specific about what he wanted from the alien.
Action!
It was actually very helpful to have a director who knew exactly what he wanted.
Sandy had a very specific idea in mind for what he wanted for the Joker. I really understood what he was going for of this whole Joker blames Batman, which I thought was a really cool thing.
I wanted the Joker to play more evil and twisted than funny. When a villain is too over the top and too funny, he becomes less threatening. And I wanted Andrew to be very threatening. I wanted to do something that was a lot more streamlined, a lot thinner, and a lot tighter to his face, so he could get more expression through the cowl. I wanted the cowl to almost become part of him. The look with the white contact lenses for protection and so forth, I thought it would incorporate as one whole piece of the cowl. I called up Henry Alvarez and I said, I'm going to make this Batman movie. And he said that he wanted to sculpt the cowl, and I was just so stoked. This is my mentor. This is the guy that I've looked up to my whole career.
Well, he called me up and he says, look, I got another project I want to do, and I want to come talk to you about it. He started telling me about this concept of Batman and the Predators and the aliens and the Jokers. And I'm looking at him and, is this really possible? I said, man, what about the suits and all these other characters? There's a lot of special effects going to be involved in it. He was very assured that he could pull it off.
Sandy was very animated about how he wanted things done, and he was always jumping around. But he knew what he wanted, and that was one of the things I liked. We ended up with two capes that we shot with. We had a long cape for when he's up on the top of the buildings with the gargoyle and blowing in the wind and that kind of stuff. And then we had a shorter fighting cape that wasn't quite as long and cumbersome.
When I life casted Clark and brought Henry the Life cast, when he first roughed it out and laid it up, there were some very interesting things going on there. I remember I wanted the ears to kind of curve in a little bit to make them look a little bit more menacing, the brows to be, you know, down a little more to give him that real, like, angry look.
I think he pretty much has a firm grasp on what Batman should be.
My approach to the whole costume was very utilitarian.
And when Sandy first started talking about this, just putting a guy in a spandex suit, basically, I was like, well, I don't really know if that's going to work.
It progresses. He shows us the Batman suit, the cowl, and everything on the actor. He's working with the actor. I'm floored, right? I'm saying, yeah, this works.
It worked out really well. I was really impressed with Clark and how he looked in the suit.
It was like Batman coming to life and was human. Seeing him on camera, the expression that he applied to Batman, his body, the way he moved, it was like he totally became Batman. I've heard people standing around just saying, that is Batman. He is Batman.
To me, there is no other Batman.
Clark is Batman.
Clark is Batman.
Clark is Batman.
They finally got a Batman who looks like he can kick the hell out of somebody.
I am Batman.
And that's what Clark has brought to it. He's brought it to life.
I wanted the look of the film to have almost like a black and white movie quality to it. So the palette for the film was very minimal. I had several discussions with Vince about how film noir-ish I wanted it to look.
Originally, on the first meetings we met, he had these great storyboards. When I saw the storyboards, I was like, okay, this guy knows what he wants. Before we even started shooting frame one, we had gone through location. We worked out what camera angles we wanted to use, what lenses we wanted to use, how each shot was going to look.
I wanted it to be very dark and brooding and rainy.
Sandy told me, it will be cold, it will be dark, it will be nasty. Will you be ready?
It was so cold and dark and wet.
It was dark and cold and wet.
It was dark.
It was pretty cold and wet.
It was wet, and it was cold, and it was dark.
It was actually fun because it made me become Batman.
If you're gonna make a Batman movie, it has to convey the grittiness and the inherent darkness of Gotham City and of Batman and his environment. My idea for the fight was to do something that was more of a bare-knuckle brawl, visceral, guttural, in-your-face kind of fight rather than have people flying around on wires.
It started with his original concept and script, where there were certain things that were definitely laid out stunt-wise. We determined early on, story-wise, that this was a down-and-dirty, gritty street fight between Batman and Predator.
We rehearsed quite a bit. Scott Rhodes and Scott Leva got Clark and Kurt out there about once a week.
We had the luxury of like maybe 8 or 9 days of rehearsal with the two actors who were very, very good, very cooperative. They never needed to be doubled.
Doing all my own stunts was actually the only way I would have had it. I jumped off the buildings, I ran into walls, I fell into the ground, I cut my knees up, I was bruised, I was beat up, but I would not have had it any other way.
I wanted to stay away from complicated wire work. There are wire shots in the film, but they are not in the fight. Scott Leva was instrumental in coordinating all that.
Ratcheting somebody out of frame is pretty simple. Dropping somebody into frame, grabbing and ratcheting them both out at the same time in sync was a little bit of a mathematical equation. It was a bit of a challenge, but all in all, I liked the overall effect in the end.